Salutations and welcome to Tashana's Kitchen, where every day is a new day and today is vegan day. We are going to make homemade vegan buns as well as homemade chickpea burgers for a friend that is coming over this evening, and I'm kind of excited to try it. The only vegan burger that I have ever had was a garden burger, and it actually wasn't too bad. So today I'm going to go ahead and see if I can replicate a wonderful garden burger for my friends. But first we must start with the homemade vegan buns, because I'm going to need to use one of the buns to make the breadcrumbs that actually go into the burger. So let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to need is some active yeast. You can either use the wet or the dry. So you might notice I have two different kinds of yeast here. And yes, I've already opened it, so I really don't want to turn sideways. One is the active yeast, and the other one is called an instant yeast. This instant yeast is the one that we're going to use today. You might have caught my Burox video, and that was actually this. The difference is this yeast, or the active yeast, you are going to mix directly with your warm water that you want to have between 100 and 120 degrees. However, this yeast, or the instant yeast, you are able to put directly into your flour mixture to cook. So I've gone ahead and I did warm up my water. You're going to want to start with 1 tablespoon of this instant yeast. This is not a whole package. It's 1 tablespoon, and normally there is 2 1/4 or 1 1/4 of tablespoons in one package. So again, we're using 1 tablespoon of our instant yeast. And then you're going to want to have between 1 cup and 3/4 cup of warm water between 100 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I've gone ahead and warmed it. I've checked with my thermometer to make sure we were ready to go. And the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to weigh out your flour. Typically, I am a person that just goes ahead and does regular measurements with my cups. However, my husband recently bought me this wonderful scale over here, and I have discovered that your cakes and cookies are better when you weigh the flour, as well as when you sift, just like when you use Crisco for pie crust. Everything has a little tweak to make everything a little different. The base are generally the same. So today, to make our vegan buns, what we're going to do is we're going to take approximately 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour, or 420 grams, which is I've already pre-measured in here. I have my stand mixer. You can do this by hand, but with the fibromyalgia, I find it easier to let the mixer do the work. I've also attached my bread hook instead of my whisk, so that's going to be easier. I also have a little spatula, silicone spatula, so I can scrape the sides to make sure that everything is being incorporated properly. And then I am going to use my little brush for on the top of the buns. And then, of course, you're going to want to have your measuring spoons and a measuring cup, or whatever you prefer when you're getting started. So again, I have my 3.5 cups, which is 420 grams of flour. I have also added 1 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt. We're going to add in a 1/4 cup of sugar. And then I like to have a little surprise here and there, and for a little bit of color and just a little bit of difference, and to be health conscious, I went ahead and I put in a 1/4 teaspoon. You can use a dash to a 1/4 teaspoon of ground turmeric. I put them all into my mixing bowl. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the mixing stand. And then I'm going to use my little silicone spatula. I'm going to whisk it around just a little bit for a moment. And then we're also going to take 2 tablespoons of vegan butter. I am using Earth Balance today, and it is non-GMO, non-dairy, non-homogenized oils, and it's a vegan butter stick. My friend brought that over so that I could make sure and do this right. So I've gone ahead and put the tablespoons here. I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 tablespoons and plop it in. And then I also have 3 tablespoons of, I'm going to get it wrong, it's the chickpea juice, and it is actually called aquafaba, if I'm correct, aquafaba, 3 tablespoons. The great thing is I'm also going to use the garbanzo beans, which are also chickpeas, to make the garden burgers. It's actually the main staple. So I'm pretty excited. 1 product, 2 different items. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 3 tablespoons in. Set this aside, the garbanzo beans. That is going to be for our next project, like I said. And now I'm going to go ahead and I pre-measured 1 tablespoon of that instant yeast. Again, not active, instant yeast. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there as well. Again, I'm going to kind of mix it just a hair. Now, I'm going to go ahead and mix this for a minute. I'm going to pause. I'll let you see what it looks like. And then I'm going to add in 3/4 cup of water. And we'll see what it looks like from there. And then we'll see if we need to go up to the 1 cup or not. So I'm going to go ahead and get her started. And I'll let you see what that looks like in just 1 moment. Okay, I went and let it mix up for about 1.5 minutes or 90 seconds. And you can see it's slowly starting to fall. It is feeling a bit sticky. It's starting to come together. I put in the 3/4 cup of water. I actually have not added any water, and it's still kind of tacky. So now that it's been mixing together, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on, and I'm going to put it on speed 2 for 6 to 8 minutes, and then we'll take another look and see how that looks. All right, it has been 7 minutes, and this is how the dough looks. When I touch it, it springs back. I'll bring a piece over. I want to move the whole thing. It's barely tacky. It easily forms a ball and sticks, but isn't so sticky that it's like coming apart like this. So my dough looks beautiful. We're going to call that good. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the dough and out of my attachment here. And now, here's our beautiful bread. What I'm going to do is I am making sure it's all mixed on the bottom here. Kind of hard to see. All my dough is out. And now, it's going to kind of let it flop hand to hand and kind of make a a ball out of my dough, because it is dough. And then, once it is malleable and kind of a dough formed into a ball, I'm going to take a pre-greased bowl, and I'm using Crisco. I know that it's safe. And in case you haven't caught a previous video, I like to take my Crisco, I put a plastic bag inside out, and I do my Crisco, and then I put it back in, making sure my top does not touch inside, and then plop my dough down in that pre-greased. Move my Crisco back. Now, put the lid back on, and I don't have to worry about it being on me. Alright, so there's the Crisco trick. And I'm going to put my lid on, and I can either leave this sitting out in my house, depending on how warm it is, put it in a nice warm place. Some people put it in their oven with just the light on for an hour or two. And for space in my kitchen and cleanliness, I'm actually going to pop mine into the oven. Set the timer for 1 hour, and we're going to just let it proof or rise up or double in size. When it's done that, I'll come back and show you what to do with that. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with the actual chickpea veggie burger. So I'm going to gather my ingredients together. I'm going to show you everything that you're going to need, and then we'll mix that together and get ready for the next step. So I'll get you back as soon as I have my ingredients. All right, I have everything set up. I'm going to tell you how much of each of the ingredients that we're going to add to a blender, food processor, whatever you have on hand to chop things up. But first, let's just get into what ingredients you're going to need to have. So first, you need two cans of garbanzo or chickpeas. They're 15 ounces, and you're going to want to dry them. So I set them out on a towel on my stove and used a couple cycles of paper towels and wiggled them around back and forth and dried them out. And then, so the next thing that we're going to do is, I'm going to start from the left side over and move to the right and tell you what I have out that we're just going to be plopping in. So first, in this cup here, I put in a cup of roasted almonds and 2 tablespoons of dried lentils. And that's what I have over here is nuts and the lentils. So up next I have whole oats, and I also have some all-purpose flour, and I have a half a cup of each in this cup. And then in this cup here, I have 2 tablespoons of refrigerated minced garlic, as well as 100% real lemon juice. And then in this little bowl, I have a teaspoon each of ground turmeric, Himalayan sea salt, tomato basil seasoning, ground black pepper, smoked paprika, ground cumin, and I have personally dehydrated over here yesterday from my garden some basil, oregano, and then the garlic is actually the garlic that we went out and planted. I took the leaves and I dehydrated that, and then a yellow onion, the leaves of it as well, and the waste, and I put them in all in the dehydrator, dehydrated it, and I've rolled around. I'm going to go ahead and powder it with the Mr. Coffee over here, and we're going to add in a teaspoon of that as well. Oh, excuse me. It also has dried rosemary in that mix over there. So again, that's what it looks like before. So I will be curing this. Originally I was just going to cure it for 10 days. and then turn it into a salt. And then I changed my mind and I realized I wanted to use it today. It'll go really well in this garden burger. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll get this powdered up. I'll put all the ingredients that we already have out into the blender. And then I will get them blended up and let you see what that looks like. And then what we're going to do is refrigerate the dough after I turn them into patties, which I'll show you the patties. We'll refrigerate that for an hour and let it set up. And we're down to 22 minutes on the bun dough. And it is definitely rising. So that's fantastic. By the time I get this mixed up and we have patties sitting out, then that will be ready to pop in the fridge. We'll be ready to pull out the buns, and then I will be able to get the buns prepped for the oven, show you that, and we'll cook those off. And by the time we're done with that, we'll be ready to get back to the burgers. It's all looking really good. And then on the side, as a side note, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get out some squash. And we're making a lovely squash side to pair with this. So I'll get back to you really soon as I have all that mixed up. So I'm not really sure if I mentioned over here, I got so excited telling you everything that was in it. I think I neglected to mention I have a yellow onion and I have some fresh carrots that are incredibly thin, and I'm going to mince them up very small. In between the fresh yellow onion and the minced carrot, as well as I took some tops off of my bunchy onions, and I have a little bit of chive and some real fresh rosemary that I took out today from the garden. It's going to be about a half a cup altogether on that I'm going to also add into the blender. So if I didn't mention that, that is the fresh veggie portion that we'll be adding. Everything else is going to be dried, ground, or except the minced garlic out of the fridge. Alright, welcome back. I moved all the ingredients on over here so we had a little more working space. I have everything into my blender. I used the Mr. Coffee, that whole jar of the dehydrated used scrap turned into this. And that is absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and it's the only thing that's not in my mix up here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the teaspoon while I have you here so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's a beautiful powder. Oh, it smells great. Even though it's dehydrated, it smells wonderful. Alright, set that aside. I'll go ahead and get that taken care of. And I'm going to get that mixed up and start making some patties. Timer just went off, so our bread should be proofed. And I need to get those patties in the fridge for an hour so we can work on the buns. Okay, I went ahead and mixed everything up in the blender. And afterthought, after you blend your chickpeas, garbanzo beans, take them out and then add a little bit at a time. I threw everything in there and they kind of got stuck at the bottom, but I just pulled out, I turned it off, pulled out the spatula, got it all down and around, and it still didn't really quite incorporate. I think another thing I would do differently the next time is I would, in advance, use my Mr. Coffee, and I would chop up my nuts, because I found a whole one in one of the bowls. So I ended up with 5 nice size round balls that I am going to get ready to turn into a patty and set into the fridge. Clean up this area real quick and we will get that dough going. So let me turn these into, excuse me, let me turn these into some patties. Okay, here are my 5 beautiful garden burgers that are about to go into the refrigerator. And here is the beautiful bun dough that just came out of the oven with just the light on. Remember, there was no heat in there, but it actually feels warm. It's amazing what your oven light can actually do. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the fridge, like I said, and we will get started on those buns. Okay, so we're pulling the dough out. Just going to roll it around for a little bit in my hand and pushing it underneath of itself. Alright, I'm going to set it out on the floured area, turn it over both ways. Now, I know that my actual dough cutter is still put away in with my Christmas cooking stuff, so I pulled out the metal spatula. Just going to throw a little bit on. I'm also going to try the pizza cutter because I know not everybody has the dough cutter, so I thought first we'll just give this a try. It's going to cut it in half. That worked just fine. I'm thinking this might be a little thick on my pizza cutter, but we're going to give it a whirl anyway. Oh, it loved that. Okay, we're going to be doing the pizza cutter. Thank you, spatula. Cut that in half again. Now I have 4. I'm going to roll it over. And we are going to cut it in half again. Alright. And that will make 8. And then I'm just going to simply take it back and forth in my hand until it's forming a dough. And I'm going to roll it underneath of itself like this, touching the ends together. And then I'm going to just keep doing that until it kind of sticks together. Now, because the way I'm doing it, it actually doesn't appear like it's sticking. But that's because I'm trying to show you. But as I'm doing it, I should be pinching it together. Taking my thumbs and kind of pushing back and rolling around, pinching, and then I just do the other direction. Now you're going to want to do that until it makes a nice little peak. And then you can take your hand. You can actually put it in your hand between your thumb and this finger, or this finger, depending on what size your hands are and your ball is. I hear you. My dog would like to go outside. So, 1 minute, Trevi. So there is my ball. I'm going to just go ahead and set it back down on my counter. And then I'm going to get out my cookie sheet with my parchment paper, let the big dog out, and I'll get right back to you and show you what they look like when they're all rolled out and ready to go in the oven, as well as get the oven turned on. 350 degrees. All right, welcome back. It seems to have gotten a little bit darker in here. I'm not sure what's going on with that. My clicker did stop working and power went out on the tablet. Every day's a new day, so we'll just keep on going. So I've cleaned up the area while I plugged in the charger, and I've made my rolls, as you can see. I put them on parchment paper. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flatten them down, and then I'm going to take another piece of parchment paper with my baking sheet and put on top of it upside down and let them rise for 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to do that so that they don't rise up too high, because I'm not wanting like muffins and rolls. I'm wanting to have a bun. So once again, roll up my sleeves. I also have some Bob's Red Mill egg replacer, and I mixed a teaspoon of that in here along with a tablespoon and a half of water. I just kept adding a little bit more, as well as a little bit of melted butter, and I came up with this kind of a texture. I have not used this before, I'll be honest with you, but I'm excited to try it out for my friends. It looks a little pasty, which it does say that it will thicken. So we're going to use that on the top of our rolls. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the back of my hand. I'm going to flatten them out. Parchment paper from there rolling around. Alright, done that once. Now we're just going to go ahead, put this on top. Now when I come back in 45 minutes to an hour and they are ready to go, I will add the wash to it. I will have my oven at 375. I think earlier I said 350 to preheat, but I actually am at 375 to preheat. I did have my oven on because I was trying to warm up the room so I could get things going a little bit quicker with my rising of the dough in here. I'm shooting for 30 minutes. Oops, excuse me. I'm shooting for 30 minutes for these to be ready to go into the oven and cook off. So I'm going to go ahead and let them rise for 30 minutes. I'm going to set them back on over here. My oven is now off, but it's still kind of warm, so I'm just leaving it here, letting it be. I'm going to clean up the rest of the kitchen. I will come back and show you what they look like when they go in the oven and when they come out. And then I am going to get this area cleaned up and get ready to make the squash. All right, welcome back. The homemade burger buns are now out of the oven. They've had time to cool and rest, and this is how they look on the bottom. Actually, that looks really dark, but it is not. So let's see. How do you do that to make it easier? Okay, this does make it look dark, but I'm telling you, they're not as dark as that looks. They have a really, really nice texture. They spring back, and yet when I cut them, they're going to be fantastic. I did go ahead and do the egg wash. I did forget to bring you back with the Redmond's substitute egg and some vegan butter. And that worked out great. And then when they came out, I washed it again with just the vegan butter, not the wash. And this is how, when they came out, they had that beautiful look to them because of the wash. And then they have a nice, soft, bouncy texture because they had the butter added again at the end. Getting ready to do the squash and cut it up. My son decided to come over as well, so now we have more company, and I think that they just arrived. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We are not doing like a regular charcoal grill. We actually made a beautiful fire pit, and if everyone agrees, I'll take you out there and show you the fire pit, where we're going to be grilling both the garden burgers, vegan garden burgers, as well as the regular burgers, and everything else that happens. All right, thank you for stopping by, and those beautiful buns are done.